This is Kerry Steller with MMA UK and in the Girls Corner, and I am speaking to Bruce, the veteran voice of the Octagon, Buffer. How are you, Bruce?
I'm good, Kerry. Thank you for the call. I look forward to being on the program. It's always good to do everything I can for the big UFC fans in the UK.
We are so excited to be speaking to you. It is an honor. You are arguably one of the most recognizable voices in the entire world. How did you get into doing this and being the voice for the UFC?
Well, I was never working in announcing before. I've been an entrepreneur and I owned my first corporation when I was 19, owning a variety of different businesses. And then in the late 80s, being the huge boxing fan that I am, there was a gentleman who came into the world of announcing, adding a very debonair James Bond flair, and came up with this famous phrase that everybody caught on to called, "Let's get ready to rumble."
Mm-hmm.
And watching TV, when they flash his name on the screen, his name was Michael Buffer, is Michael Buffer. And my last name is Buffer, and I owned a number of telemarketing companies in my 20s. And I looked in every phone book to see my last name, around the country, which is a normal thing we all did back then before the internet. And I never saw my last name. So when I saw his name on the screen, I'm like, who is this guy? So long story cut short, he started becoming very famous, like the boxers, and people would come up to me and say, "Is that your brother?" Saying, "Let's get ready to rumble." And I'm like, "No, my brother's name is Brian." And I talked to my dad about it, and I'm really cutting this story short. And we were driving on a trip one day, and I said, "Dad, do you have any idea who this guy is?" And he said, "I think that's your brother." And I went, "What?" And I'm 28 years old at this time.
Wow.
And basically, it turned out that Michael was Dad's long-lost son and my long-lost half-brother, because my dad never told me that he was married briefly during World War II when he was 20. And he went overseas for 9 months. When he came back, his son was born, and that was Michael. And they lost track of each other, and Michael was raised by foster parents under a different name of Huber. And when he went into the Army at 19 or 20, they said, "Your name is Buffer," because his birth certificate is never properly changed. So had that not happened, which he maintained the name Michael Buffer since then, we probably never would have met. But when we did meet 4 years later, I sold two companies because I was burned out on what I was doing, even though I was making great money and doing well. Because I had a dream and a passion to trademark that famous phrase properly, take over Michael's management, become his partner, and eventually get into announcing myself, which we all agreed that I would become his partner and his manager, because I looked at him and I said, "Listen, I want to make you richer and more famous than you ever dreamed, myself in the process. I want to put you in every form of sports and entertainment, make video games and toys and movies and TV shows." And he's like, "How are you going to do all this?" And I said, "I really don't know. But if I'm going to give everything up that I'm giving up, you better believe I'm going to make this happen." So that was some 27 years ago. And a few years after that, the UFC had come on the scene, but they were growing at a very strong rate, being the spectacle that they were. So being Michael's manager, I wanted to get Michael in every single event possible. So I got him into UFC 6, 7, and Ultimate. And when I did, the very first show, he came out and he said, "If it's not in the Octagon, it's not real," which they had him say. And I knew, because we had a huge contract, which you may be familiar with, WCW Wrestling, the big league back then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they called me that Monday and they said, "What are you doing? Why is he doing that?" I said, "He can do it. He's allowed to do it." He goes, "No, you have to make a decision, us or them." So it was a simple decision because the WCW was huge. Michael was making great money with it. And then when I pulled him out of his three shows, he did the three and he was done. I basically convinced the owner over a period of time to let me try it, to announce the prelims, which I did. Then they called me back for UFC 10. Then I co-starred on the TV show Friends as myself, the UFC announcer, but as myself, Bruce Buffer. And that gave me the bartering tool to play the best poker hand I ever played in my life, where I convinced them that I should announce every show, build with the UFC, and use my media contacts and everything I had at my disposal to help them grow and build the brand. Not just be the announcer, but grow and help build that brand, because I thought and believed, and it did become true, that it was going to be the biggest thing ever in the fighting sports, which it is. And there you go. That was the short and long story. I'm sorry for being so long-winded.
Oh, stop. That's amazing. Well, I did a lot of my research, and I did find out that, you are related to Michael Buffer, which a lot of people knew. But it's crazy because when I watched that Friends episode, I turned around and it was about that time that I knew what the UFC was and finally found out what it was. And I said, "Hey, that's the guy. I know him."
Oh, well,
And
thank
I
you for
remember
that.
watching you on there and said, "This guy's got an amazing voice."
Well, I
To
appreciate you
find out how
saying.
you came into it is great.
Thank you, and I appreciate you saying that back then because everything has an evolutionary process, including my announcing, performing, and my voice. So I feel it's a little different now, but I still get residual checks. That show's so darn popular. I get a $54 check every month, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun to open the envelope.
I actually have seen that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that episode pop up during the day or on the weekend. And it just excites me so much. And I'll have people that come up to me and say, wait, is that the same guy? And I'm like, it is. It is. Now, you have a huge career in and out of the octagon. You have a background in martial arts before being a UFC announcer from when you were younger.
Right. I was in my first start was judo at 12, and I went on to when we moved to Malibu from Philadelphia when I was 15. I met Chuck Norris's fighting partners, and I became friends with Steve McQueen, the actor, and he was into studying with Chuck, and then I started studying Tang Soo Do, and I became a second degree black belt in Tang Soo Do, and I was a very active surfer back then, surfing every day, living the Point Break lifestyle to a certain degree, and we fought a lot. And we fought and we surfed and we trained and we surfed and we trained and we surfed, and that's all I did. And then I got into the world of kickboxing, and I was working at the time, but I really, really trained very hard and rigorously for 10, 12 years in kickboxing, and was thinking about having a single pro fight just to say I did it, but I got concussed a couple times during the training, and at 32 received the doctor's orders, stop taking shots to the head. Enjoy your life, live your life, you're doing well. Train as hard as you want, but no more shots to the head. So that went out the door.
Well, and look at what it's done for you. I believe when one door closes, a lot more open. But to have that background is absolutely huge because there's so many people in the MMA industry, whether it be a journalist or, somebody that's even judging not have any experience in it. It's great to see that you absolutely do. And,
Thank you.
it's crazy because over the years I've been watching you and watching the fights, and you've helped grow the brand so much. And I remember I was watching, I can't remember, it might have been TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt one. And I noticed you were almost doing like an entertaining move of yourself. And it took me a while to figure out you have a whole, not an act, but you put on a performance when you're in there, and you do your signature move, which is the Buffer 180. When did you come up with all this stuff?
When I first started announcing, I was like a tiger inside waiting to get out of the cage because I love to move, and I'm like an NBA player who knows his half court every single inch. I know exactly where I'm at anywhere in that octagon, whether I'm, no matter what direction I'm facing. But in the beginning, because of the announcers and the way they announced, everybody just sort of stands still in the center, and like my great brother, the legendary Michael Buffer, he's the most eloquent, classiest, and legendary announcer of all time. And he stands there with his eloquent voice and his looks, and he does his thing. And the other announcers have a tendency to really copy Michael over the years. And now I notice they're trying to copy me, which I find very funny when they try to do my physical stuff. But that's okay. I always say, create your own style. Be known for your own style. That's the best way to get known. But as far as your question, I never rehearse. I consider myself a performer as well as an announcer. And when I realized that about 3, 4 years in that I was this animal inside waiting to like move, I decided that I was going to start moving. And I was doing so many different events. I started, going up to the corners to the fighters, moving around in the octagon. And one time I was facing the red corner when I had to announce the blue corner, and I went fighting, right? Or introducing fighting out of the blue corner. And I realized I was looking at the red corner, right? So I immediately snapped into, when I said the word fighting, I snapped into a 180 into a spinning bottom fist.
Yeah.
And I shot over to the blue corner and then walked over to them and announced them. And when I did that 180, the crowd reacted, and I got back to my seat and I thought, that works. So I started adopting the 90-degree turn, the 180-degree turn, and eventually did the one time only 360 at UFC 100. But you know what it is? It's all a sample of my passion for what I do, my passion and respect for the great female and male warriors that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears on the line in the octagon. The show is not about me. I am there to enhance the fighters and enhance the fans in their moment. So I go out every night treating every show like my very first show to prove to myself, to the people I work for, and to the fans watching and the fighters I'm announcing that I deserve this job. And I'm that way every single night I walk out, after 24 years, as of last Sunday, which is my 24-year anniversary, of the Sunday before, excuse me, um, I still have the same attitude. And that's the passion that keeps me going. And quite honestly, when the passion wanes, Carrie, then you're going to hear it's time for me to retire, because I'm not going to phone it in, and I'm not going
Yeah.
to travel the world 35 times a year, which is hard enough as it is being on planes. That's probably the hardest part of the job, because that novelty wore off a long time ago. Um, that's really it. I do everything with passion. If I can't do it with passion, then I'm out. Buffer out.
And it really, there is something huge to be said for that, because if you don't love what you do, it's going to be very obvious, and you're going to see it. And you being who you are, and everybody knows who you are, not just your voice, your presence, the outfits that you wear, which are amazing. Your suits are absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and that does it. And I thank you on behalf of the world, because that's something special that you don't really get to see often in any other sport or a combat sport. You are your own person, and that there is something to be said for, don't be the next person, be the next you. So
Exactly.
you've taken that to a whole nother level.
Thanks, Carrie. I really appreciate your kind words. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that when I met my brother Michael and I became manager of his career and partner in his career for all the things we'd done, I told myself that I was going to get into announcing. I'd give it 3 years. And if in that 3 years I didn't develop my own style that I was known for, then I would have quit, because I had no interest in being Frank Sinatra Jr. or holding on to the coattails. I sew Michael's coattails on. I'm his manager. I'm his partner. But I I wanted to get out there and not be there for the paycheck and the great seat. I wanted to be out there because I love what I do and I'm known to do it well. And like I always say, like my performance, don't like me, whatever. Just know that I always give my best. I always give my all. And that's all I can do. That's all I can do.
Well, absolutely. That's, more than half of everything is just giving your best and being the best version of yourself. And with so many fights that you've been out there for, w- I mean, countless. Are there any that stick out in your mind as a standout, like you'll never ever forget announcing that fight?
Well, yes. And then there's those because I've forgotten more than I can remember, which is the reason I wrote my book, It's Time, some 8 years ago, to remember everything I'd done over the previous 16 years. And, it's almost due ready for its time again for the next book. So if you were to ask me what the greatest fight I saw, I can't say it. I can tell you a number of great fights I've seen because, quite honestly, with the entertainment value and the quality of the
Mm.
warriors in the octagon, like just this last weekend, Paul Felder and Dan Hooker fighting in New Zealand. That fight was probably going to be the fight of the year already this year. It's incredible,
That was
and
a war.
a war. And there's so many of these great wars. Everybody deserves their just praise. And next week after in Vegas for the big 248 show, UFC 248. Who knows? We might see it. Another between Weili Zhang and Joanna.
Oh,
In Jaychuk and everything going on that weekend, or even in the prelims. You never know what the best fight of the night's going to be. I mean, we've given the best fight of the night $50,000 bonuses to the very first prelim. You never know. These warriors are amazing. The sport is so exciting. So, can't tell you the greatest, but I can tell you about many. Can't tell you the greatest fighter, but I can tell you about many of the greatest fighters I've met.
and you've met them all. And I mean, really, you've announced my favorite fights. And again, it's the same kind of thing. There's so much, and they evolve. Every time I watch a fight, it gets better and better and better. And, again, you're going to have people that are going to go around and say their opinions of it, like anything else. But
Uh-huh.
at the end of the day, these people are in there giving their heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears for
Well,
us to watch as enjoyment.
exactly. Carrie, earlier you pointed out something about the fact that people watching, critics criticizing, pardon me, people judging, people do everything, but did they ever fight? It's kind of like a movie critic. They're going to
Yep.
tear apart a movie where they just spent, 20, 30, 40 million or even 5 million. People put their lives and they're on hold, being on a set in another country for 3 months, working 12, 16-hour days. And then you're going to tear it apart in the space of, 500 words. Okay,
Hmm.
that's critics. They're all out there. We have to have a thick skin and deal with it. But yes, it is great when people have had experience, and especially in the fight game and the hurt game, they know what it's like to be punched in the face, and they know what it's like to train, and they know what it's like to be in there. You can't ask that of everybody, but it is great when they have that ability to have that knowledge.
It makes it that much better. It truly, truly does. And it really, in a lot of industries, you can say that if you have experience doing what you do and getting your hands dirty in it, You know it better than anybody else, and you're not going to be the quickest person to criticize it or to even just make a quick assumption, because at the end of the day, there is the unified rules, but there's also so many other rules that they're not completely unified yet. And I tell people, do your due diligence and go and research the rule set that was just used and applied for that fight, because unless you do that, you can't sit there and go, well, that was a bad call. Well, that was this, that was that. You're not in there and you've never done it. So unless
Everybody,
you're doing your research, you shouldn't be talking on it.
true, but everybody does have a right to talk. That
Absolutely.
it just is what it is. But it's all about who you're talking to. Do you respect their opinion or not? But listen, it's a fan sport, so the fans have a
Mhm.
right to analyze the way they do, and we have to deal with however that falls out.
Absolutely. Now, you've done a ton of acting. You've done movies and you've done TV. Is there any plan for you to be doing that in the future or more of?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would love doing it. It's a lot of fun, and I always wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. I studied, and I was planning on pursuing it. And then I owned my first telemarketing company when I was 19, and I had actors working for me, pounding the pavement, hoping they're getting their call back in their audition. And I realized the passion needed to pound that pavement, and I was very lucky to have entered an environment where I began to make really great money at a very early age. And I decided to not finish college and just pursue my business career and give myself 2 years to make it in the streets, which I did, thank God, in a variety of businesses, learning through success and failure. And I just stuck to that entrepreneurial attitude. But the beautiful thing is, when I became an announcer, as you said, and thank you for that, I've had the ability to fulfill that bucket list wish to do a number of TV shows and co-star in Friends and Entourage and make movies with fine actors like Antonio Banderas and Kevin James and many others. Will Ferrell recently in Holmes and Watson, which won the Razzie for the worst movie of the year. But when people tell you your cameo in the scene, which Michael and I did, was one of the best scenes in the movie, you know that it wasn't going to be critically acclaimed. But it was great to work with Will Ferrell and everybody on that film. It was an awesome experience. So life is all about experiences, and to be able to fill those bucket lists and still do what I love to do in announcing in the other areas, and other products I'm developing and I'm going to be coming out with this year. It's great. Like, for instance, yesterday we just announced, as I manage my brother, the new movie from Paramount, Rumble, the big animated film. It just hit it'll be out in 2021. And this is a huge animated film coming out that Michael's in. And we licensed Let's Get Ready to Rumble 2. It's a big thing. It's another big movie move. I'm not in that movie. My job as Michael's manager and business partner to put that together.
Okay.
But, it's a lot of great experiences, Carrie. A lot of great experiences.
Well, and that you're able to do all of that and still manage your brother and have that family connection is absolutely amazing. And it's huge. That's, to me, couldn't be more of an important thing. And to have something outside of your career in general is amazing too. And I don't know if a lot of people know this about you, but you are a professional poker player.
Yes, I love poker. I'm going to call myself semi-pro. I don't think I'd want to be professional where I played
Okay.
every day grinding it out, but I do play a lot.
Okay.
Love cash games, love tournaments, and cash in the World Series. I'm a very competitive person, and at 62 now, instead of standing across from somebody throwing punches or surfing a big wave, which I still love, the bottom line is I need that competitive spirit. And if I can take your chips off the poker table and win a tournament or whatever with all due process, we're not here to make friends. We're here to make money and have fun and still make friends. It's a fun thing to do. I love poker.
It's, and you have to have something. I actually shoot pool competitively. So I know what you mean and I'm a competitor in general. So I have to constantly be competing. And to me, that's the closest thing or it is the only thing that I can do really at the moment. But I love that. I love that I can, take that. I know I want to win. I know that it could be a grind out and a fight on that table. So it's exciting. And it's exciting to have something else. And is the Luxor poker room still named after you?
I wish it was. That was a 1 year deal, and it was so cool. It was a great experience, and there's only been about 6 poker rooms named after people in Las Vegas, and I'm blown away that I happen to be one of them. And we used to have a store across from there. We were selling T-shirts and hats and shot glasses and glasses with my mug on them, my picture and my trademark. It's time, and I was like a kid in the candy store when I used to go over there. But it was a 1 year deal, and it was a great experience while it lasted.
that it is amazing. And when I saw that, I said, I got to find out if that was how long of a deal that was. But that's something huge. Not many people, like you said, get that opportunity. And I mean, it just says the person that you are and everything that you've accomplished and how great of a human you are. I've read about you for a very long time. And even outside of all of that, you're a great human being. You do a
Thanks.
lot. You do a lot. And there's something to be said for taking your platform and doing something with it.
Thank you. You think so, and my mom thinks so. I'm a very happy person. That makes me happy. You know, it's the cool thing about life and its experiences, and I wish this for everybody. I say this at the end of my It's Time podcast every week. To be the best you can be, set your goals, write them down. So when you step on that path, if you be the best you can be, whether you're number one or whether you're a champion or not, then you're winning. And life is all about winning. And that's what I wanted to do. And I still want to do. I wake up with this fever and fervor, not fever, but fervor every day, this fire. It's time. I look in the mirror, I shave, I slap my face. It's time to have the best day ever. So without all the soapbox talk, what I want to share with you is achieving goals for all of us, I think, is something we all love to do. For the most part, most all people love to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, I dreamed of having my own baseball card. This experience has allowed me to get Topps trading cards. As a kid, I dreamed about being in a video game. I've been in 11 or 10 video games, and I've had the pleasure of actually being behind the camera and helping develop and make 3 video games with the Ready to Rumble Boxing. I love the video game industry. As we know, this esports industry is getting huge. So the video games happen. I have a chance to be in the movies and the TV, and I get to stand center in the greatest fighting arena of champions known to man in the world, called the UFC Octagon. I wake up every morning and step down on the ground, and I thank everybody possible for allowing me to do this, but I know that I still have to be the best I can be when I set out on that path. And it just means doing my best. That's all it is. It's all we can do. So I love fulfilling my dreams.
Absolutely. It sounds like you either practice or follow, or even if you don't, you do universal thought. And actually the show or the movie, the book, The Secret, is one of my favorite things in the entire world. And it's about putting it out there, looking in the mirror every morning and saying, I am the best version of me. I'm going to go out there and do great. I'm more than enough. And enough people don't say that. And, you hear people too often say, why did this happen to me? It's never going to get any better. And then you see that it doesn't. So
Well,
I love and I appreciate that you say that, because it shows, your positivity and your motivation has really taken you to that next level.
Well, it has, because I was lucky to be raised by amazing parents. I surrounded myself with quality people. My brother Brian, my partner Kristen, who I talk about in my book, she's my right arm in this business. And, you have such a small chance in your life beyond your family to meet great people that'll take a bullet for you, that'll be your best friends for life. And when you do, hold on to them. I'm not just talking about marriage, I'm talking about relationships. And the strength of the people around you, they make you strong. So I try to surround myself with quality people. And, again, as a team, we really push forward. And again, our tenacity, it just doesn't stop. We love what we do. I wish everybody out there I tell everybody, because I do motivational speeches also. And I have a 3-foot theory that I want everybody around me to be successful, happy, and prosper, and be healthy, if I didn't say that already. Because if I can help everybody around me be that way, then it'll come back to me. And that's the unselfish attitude that I put forth and live my life as. Granted, I want to be the number one. If you're going to compete against me, I'm going to do my best to win this thing. But I want everybody to be successful. When they spin the lottery wheel, I get tears in my eyes watching people win money. I love seeing people fulfilled. It's just a thing about me. I can't get away from it. It's who I am.
Well, that again speaks to your character, how you were raised and the person that you are. Because if when I kind of say the expression, when you're on a plane and wishing that it's going to go down and everybody's going down with you, that's the most unhealthy way to think. And you should want everybody to win. It's being a cheerleader. Nobody wants a balloon popper in their life.
Of course.
It's amazing to hear you say that, and to hear you actually verbally say that. I've read a lot about you, but it's different when you actually get to speak to somebody and not just hear it but feel it, because you can feel it in your voice that you really do have a passion for people and you love what you do.
Thanks, Carrie. I don't butter people. I mean, I don't butter people's bread. I just tell it the way it is. It's the only way I know because I think you're hurting people if you don't tell it the way it is. I want to build people's confidence. That's why I'm always around, kids. I could be walking in an arena. I've got 3 seconds to get into the octagon. And if I see a kid and he reaches out his hand, well, I'm going to stop and talk to him and I'm going to take a picture with him. When I was 5 years old, I was in Philadelphia with my brother Brian, and a tall black gentleman walked into the Marriott hotel we were at with my parents, and I recognized him from TV, and my dad said, well, go say hi. So Brian and I walked over, and this gentleman spoke to us for 5 to 10 minutes. And this is back in the 60s, and his name was Cassius Clay. It wasn't Muhammad Ali, it was Cassius Clay. And that stayed with me the rest of my life. And I think that's one of those experiences we all have, we can remember from when we were younger. That's something I carried with me. And we live in a society of decaying morality with everything going on, even with all the great technology and everything happened. But the world is changing. And I think it's also changing the fact that we have fewer real role models than we used to. So I think it's important that if anybody has a chance to be a role model and help the young become strong and confident within themselves, that's a job and a duty that I think we should all assume as human beings to help make this world better. Because one thing they do, Carrie, and you probably know this too, especially in the public eye, the fans love you on the way up, but then they can't wait to see you fail. It's just a natural reaction. It's a human nature that happens many times. So it's a vicious world out there, and it's something you've got to stay strong on. It's a dog eat dog world, as beautiful as it is. There's also the dog eat dog side. Don't kid yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. And, the more you lift people up, it's a negativity breed. So the more that people push people down, the worse it's going to get. The more you lift people up. And again, it is your duty as a person to be, in my opinion, to be a better person and to lift other people up. When I see people putting people down, like you said, in the world that we live in, whether it be a fan, whether it be, a colleague, even, it's a little upsetting, but I'm that person. You'll hear me chime in and say something really positive just to try to, tweak it a little bit if I can. And sometimes it's tough because you get people that are stuck in that mindset and that rat race, and it could be never ending. And that's why I really actually appreciate that you do motivational speaking, and I had a feeling that you did. Is that something that you're going to do more of in the future? Because you've done everything. You've done it all. And I'm sure there is much more for you to do, and a lot more that we're going to see out of Bruce Buffer. What is next?
Well, I haven't shark dived in a cage with great whites yet.
That's my dream.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to do. There's fulfillments out there. There's so much more I want to do. I'm going to make a couple big announcements business-wise of products I'm going to be coming out with and endorsing this year. Actually, a few. I've got some very big plans, but I don't like talking about them until they're released. It's a normal thing with me in business.
Smart.
I want to take care of my family, Carrie. I have everything in place. I want to do and be happy and keep doing what I do and developing different avenues around what I do and just maintain my situation with my family and my friends. And I'm at a very happy point in my life. I'm 62 years old now, and I'm enjoying and I'm just moving forward.
Well, we are just so thankful to speak to you today, for you to take your time out of your day. I know that you have a lot going on, and to enlighten us. I've learned so much more about you than I already had researched and known, and it's been an incredible experience having this conversation. And I know you said you didn't want to talk too much, but if there is anything that you want to drop or announce or anything that you want to promote, the floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you very much, Carrie. It's been a very enjoyable time with you. I appreciate it very much. Basically, one thing that the fans love, I started this a couple years ago. Kristen and I put together a little thing at Christmas, and 2 or 3 years ago, I forget what exactly, but we made championship introductions, like I'm introducing you in the cage, in the octagon. And we have an audio version and a video version. And at brucebuffer.com, at my website, we offer this for extremely reasonable rate compared to what I've been paid in the past, because I'm trying to get back to the fans. We haven't raised it. Partial proceeds are given to military, animal, and children's charities. And if you go to brucebuffer.com and you want to have the big grandiose introduction, like you're facing George St. Pierre or Chuck Liddell or whatever, it's really wonderful. And I also do weddings and birth of babies, and of course the voicemail, the podcast intros, and businesses contact me for God knows how many different things for voice and videos. But for the fans, that's something that we like to give back. So if you're really a UFC fan and you want a keepsake for life or a really cool gift for a friend, check out brucebuffer.com and know that, again, the partial proceeds are going to be sent to my choice of favorite charities involving children, military, and animals.
I love that. Those are some of my favorite charities as well. And I want to thank you again for your time. And I know that everybody can follow you on all your social media at Bruce Buffer. And you can find yourself, like you just said, at brucebuffer.com. And this is, again, Kerry Stellar with MMA UK. And you can find us at MMAUK.net, MMA UK News on Facebook, and we are MMA UK on everything else. And Bruce, again, thank you so much for taking this time to speak with us.
It's my pleasure, Carrie, and I'll be in London in a little bit. So, if you're at the show, please say hello.
I will be seeing you at UFC 249 at Barclays.
Sounds great. Okay,
Enjoy your day. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you, Carrie. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye now.